Yes, yes, on the way for it. Thank you. Did you have a breakfast? Pradeep has also come. You remember? We are delighted to have all of you as a part of this event. Thank you for joining in on time. And I would like to introduce you my co-host Pradeep. So Commander Pradeep, Indian Coast Guard veteran having a 28 years of experience, wherein he was closely involved with Planet Blue, that is ocean, seas, and closely implementing various international and national projects for ocean management, and he is driving ESG component in Planet Blue sustainability. Thank you Pradeep for joining, and thank you everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Now I introduce you the young lady, Miss Pratiksha More, founder, Sustainability 101, an education platform for ESG course and learning. She has an experience of having served in MNC for more than 2 years as ESG analyst, and also she is hosting talk show on ESG as a broadcast. Now, it goes without saying, I must introduce the brain behind this initiative, the Certified ESG Practitioner course, Ms. Harsha, founder, International Institute of Corporate Sustainability and Responsibility. Now, I should call Harsha the lady herself. Before she joins, let me say this is the trend which is globally we are following, and we are happy to have you amongst us for this global initiative trend which will be taking India in the centuries ahead on this vital subject. Now I call Ms. Harsha.
Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us. We started this initiative in 2010. I would like to first introduce our company over here. So we started this in 2010, and since 2010 it has been a journey. We started as a foundation, we graduated to become an institute, and now we are leading in the space of developing responsible business leaders. This is not the first time that we are organizing something on ESG. ESG has been in trend since more than 5 years, and in India we are training. This is about our 5th batch in ESG, and in-person meeting is very exciting, and we are all excited to see all of you all after all the online trainings that we have conducted till date. We are launching also our campus this year in North Goa. We are launching postgraduate program in CSR and sustainability. And all of you all who are present here for the induction session, when we conclude, I hope we all do well, and we all would like to host you all there. So before I go there, I would like to show you all a video that we've created.
Hello, I am Paolo. I am the Master of Ceremonies here at IICSR, and I can't wait to have you here to learn together how to learn sustainability and make this planet better. Come to see how beautiful is the place where you're going to be.
I wanted to build a more inclusive world. That's why I joined IICSR.
Hi, I am Venu Tiwari. I have joined IICSR postgraduate course on CSR and sustainability. I wanted to learn about ESG, CSR and SDGs. IICSR has the best faculty for this course.
the air quality index in Delhi is 216 today. It's the worst possible air quality index.
That's really too much, and we all have to do something to climate change.
We all want to build a sustainable and inclusive world, and IICSR is the only place which is training you all. Come join us. Thank you all for joining us today, and I would hand over the mic to Mr. Pradeep and Pratiksha to unfold the event.
Good morning once again. Now the time is ripe to introduce you the whole day proceedings, what all topics we will be covering with the help of the specialists in the field, and also I can see many students here. The students who are learning this course in due course of time with the able guidance of the seniors, the experts in this field, with their hand holding, they will become the next generation specialists, and this journey will continue to fulfill the dream of IICSR founder Ms. Harsha. I'm sure we all agree to this statement. As we begin our journey, we are student. We may be a little old or a little young, that is immaterial in today's world. But what is important, the intent of learning. And nothing can be learned in isolation. Especially the COVID gave us enough opportunity to be isolated, and the world has come to know that isolation is not the correct way to go ahead. So we thank once again Ms. Harsha to take this initiative to have in physical form this event. This could have been on Zoom the way other classes are happening, but I'm sure then we the students would be devoid of the opportunity to meet our gurus in person, and also if the experts are not meeting their students in person, the link and the connect won't be there. Then it would be there, but it will be on a digital platform. We are awaiting few of our panelists who are en route to this venue. In the meantime, I will like to introduce you the entire day proceedings. But before that, why we have taken the call of coming here, whether it is for the specialists, the gurus or the students, why ESG? ESG is more than good intentions. The worldwide, any subject, any project is the intention. Whether we do our duty, job, student, as we graduate business, or as we move further in life, the various projects. It is creating a tangible, the most important practical plan. The plan should not be complicated, that it remains on the corporate desk or on the government policies or international bodies charter. We have seen, I will not be naming those bodies, who have got a vast global charter. When the demand comes, they fail miserably. So much so that their very existence is questioned. The globe is facing such problem in today's era. So when we as a ESG practitioner or policy maker, all while we are learning, we must keep it in mind whatever we do should be practical, which achieves not only results, real results, and the word would be impact. The result has to be real. The plan has to be practical. So these are the key words I propose. Once we conclude, we will be able to include in our way ahead for the entire course duration. And once we finish 3 months of learning, grooming with the experts, hand holding, I'm sure we will be able to meet these keywords where practical plans can be made when we practice, and it should be impactful. Success is not about achieving the climate change, diversity, disclosure. As we see the journey of ESG, formulation is coming into existence, various words have changed and they have revolved around climate, diversity, equality. Similarly, we must make these principles which should cover the entire spectrum, from investment to sustainable innovation. Innovations have been there. I learned earlier when the freon gas was invented, it was told to be the biggest wonder. As we moved ahead, it was found that it is depleting the ozone layer itself. So it should be, time is there, innovation cannot be just innovative for the sake of doing something easy. Like most of the things which have turned disastrous for the nature, the plastic. Globally, the marine plastic which is floating from mountains, Himalayas to Hind Mahasagar is a big nuisance. And that world is trying to take away the Pacific garbage, put in all the energy and bring it back. So it should be sustainable. So ESG, when we learn, it should be, focus should be on sustainability, wherein how it can be achieved by bringing in best people, smart technology. Okay, the best people are there, the best capital, human resource sitting or in a boardroom. Having the best technology, modern technologies, cloud computing, everything, but they are not following the best practices. And again, the best practices are very simple. It should be very simple, going to the original word, that practical and implementable. If those key words are there, it will be best practice, because best practices are not complicated. Now, coming to why ESG now. Because now stakeholders in any forum, any formation or any corporate world, any national, international bodies, government bodies, stakeholders are right from the people who are not directly impacted by that policy itself to the people who are implementing. So we should be transparent. Earlier there was an era where the corporate boardrooms were communicating among themselves and that was reasonable enough. It was the charter of the company or the organization and it sustained over the more than 5 decades, I can say, but no more. Here, if the labor is in problem or the gatekeeper, the entire company, or we have seen the case, I'm forgetting, a company which faced the brunt of the people for non-payment of his boy's salary. The entire showroom was vandalized in Bangalore, so much so that the corporate, it is a bad thing on that. So stakeholder engagement is the component of ESG strategies, promoting transparency, trust, and help each stakeholder to understand his or her integrated role within the overall gambit. It is not important that only the head of the organization or the corporate boardroom people, the key people understand, but each person, right from the gatekeeper to the highest person in the organization, understands that he is to work within the framework of ESG. I am not the expert on ESG, so I will not take the time on the ESG itself. There are persons who will be guiding us in detail for the ESG things to happen. Okay, we are just waiting for the 2 participants and specialists on the subject, and it can happen, so we must utilize the time in the Mumbai traffic. So to be very honest, I have served here in Mumbai on various occasions, and we used to be there. So I have been sailing across. I am presently located in Delhi. I can give my personal example. And before this, I was posted in Andaman Nicobar, the Indira Point, southernmost tip of India. So much so that neither the policies reach, nor the policy makers are able to reach, nor the impact is able to reach there. So true, many people ask whether passport is required for Andaman Nicobar. How to go? As if it is a China border. So, same way I always thought, ESG is the thing which is not reaching to the persons for whom these all policies are made. I am sure the specialists will also agree and the students will also agree. So, we need to bridge the gap. So, when I came to Mumbai, the speed with which all the things are moving and happen, it is real good speed. So speed with accuracy will follow. I will request, in the meantime, the students can take the opportunity for who are the key stakeholders. I'm sure we all will agree. The ESG practitioner course, the key stakeholders are the students. If they can introduce, they are comfortable, they will introduce. The specialist will understand their background, what they are looking forward. We have all told in the digital form, in the WhatsApp group. Fortunately, unfortunately, the entire life is moving in that WhatsApp. So let's get up and introduce. If you are comfortable, anyone would like to introduce? Student, please.
It's a small group of people. It'll
Yeah.
be great to know each other, you see.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity that usually we keep these big events where no one knows the other person. So this is the reason why we kept a small group, so that at least we get acquainted with each other. This is an opportunity, so.
So yeah, let's have a icebreaker session.
Tejashri.
Everybody can tell about themselves, a fun fact about them, or what they like about sustainability or ESG. So I'll pass it on if you are interested.
And also, what do you expect? Like, what all are the nuances you all would like to learn? So,
Yeah, we
thank
must
you,
make.
Tejashri. I was just searching.
Thank you for having me here.
You can just tell your name and introduce yourself.
Okay,
and
I since I had the privilege of holding the mic, I should do the honors. I should lead from front. It goes without saying. I can be only in front in the public. I am Commandant Pradeep, Indian Coast Guard veteran, as my colleague has told. I am also a student of masters from ISCSR, and also I will be student amongst you on this ESG practitioner, because I found when I was learning, we were doing my various international national courses, we were taught all rule regulation, international maritime rules, but how to practice them, that was not taught. And that was we were expected to do at sea. We learn all the rules. If somebody is aware about the criminal procedure of India IPC, all rules are known to us, but how to implement, how to practice, that is. So I think if we are the students, then the key word for us is the practitioner. As we learn the rules, learning the rule is important, but going through the nitty-gritties with the experience and the help of the seniors, the experts, it will be important, and this thing. And the privilege of backbenchers is always there, so I come behind, and I am mobile, so that is the way to go ahead. Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shivam. I'm the Business Development Manager at Gaviva. So Gaviva is basically an end-to-end digital ESG lifecycle management company. We work with multiple organizations, corporates, and help them in their digital ESG journey. I'll pass it on to Viraf.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Viraf, and I'm also from the same team of Gaviva itself. I basically handle the IT-related technologies part, wherein we are also moving into the BRSR and the ESG side. So, yeah, I handle the technical part.
Hello, good morning. I'm Indresh Tiwari. I'm basically a postgraduate chemical engineer and management student. I'm from Borosel Renewable. So, as you know, there are new guidelines coming up for the sustainability and ESG frameworks. So, it's very much to understand how we should, as an organization, we should, draft our sustainability report and BSR report. Thank you.
I'll maintain the backbenchers privilege.
Hi all, good morning. I'm Abhinav, and I work as a bid management associate with a consulting company called Productivity based out of Gurgaon. And I'm also new to the ESG domain, so would expect to know and grow within this space. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Shubhasree. I head CSR and sustainability of Everest Industries. So I am also interested to learn more about sustainability, BRSR and ESG, how we can move forward towards and the sustainability journey to make it more comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Mayur Acharya from Aranka. Basically, I'm working here as a manager. Aranka is into market research and advisory. And of recently, we have been also coming across the concept of ESG in different business problem solutions that we typically deliver. So I am here to understand more about ESG and gain a deep dive understanding about it. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So myself Dhirendra, I am also part of Aranka. So I head the energy and ESG division of Aranka. So we have worked with different companies globally, help them in ESG platforms or kind of identifying the right kind of solution for ESG. So it is, I think, these this course can be a good platform for me to learn more in depth in terms of what is happening globally and how this ESG can actually help companies not only globally but also in India, and what companies in India are doing to maintain the kind of policies that they are looking at globally, and how government is supporting them. And also I'm looking forward to learn more on the kind of framework or the kind of model that is developed to kind of to put everything forward, or to put all the ESG kind of material in paper. So that's something which I'm looking forward.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vidyadhar Prabhudesai. I am the co-founder of LeadCap Ventures. LeadCap Ventures is a research and consulting organization. We primarily work in the development consulting space, where we end up working with a lot of international institutions like the UN, the World Bank, World Economic Forum, and our key domains are sustainability, peace, and development. We develop these indexes and sustainability related reports and design the framework. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Hi, good morning all. My name is Eka Pillai, and I've been part of Institute of Directors as one of the faculty members. And on a professional front, I'm a master black belt in Six Sigma, so I've been doing business process improvement as my forte. And ESG, I have been involved for the last 6 to 8 months, in collaboration with an Israeli company. And we are not only into ESG scoring, we are also entering into the projects of how do we implement like polymer to monomer, circularity with respect to water from air, those areas, because that's going to be the next era for ESG after we complete the scoring. And incidentally, this is the place where I used to conduct the masterclass for Institute of Directors, Churchill P1. And I'm all the more glad when they call us as students. Very humbled with humility, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you.
Can we pass forward and no more?
Yeah, good morning everyone. I'm Rakesh Dwivedi. Currently I'm working with SGS India, which is global leader in inspection, testing and verification, as a capacity of key accounts manager and lead product IMS certification. Now we are having as we know, ESG is replacing word sustainability nowadays. So we have come with the complete solution on ESG reporting, VRSR reporting. Then we are also doing verification of the report as per AA1000 standards. And first time we have come with ESG certification, SGS approved ESG certification. That means company is ESG compliant. Thank you.
Hi, good morning all. This is Yogesh from KPMG India. So we are, obviously as you know, that KPMG India advise clients on integration of ESG into their business practice. So we are working with various different type of clients and help them to not only on BRSR and writing reports, but how to integrate ESG practice into respective business. Thanks.
Good morning all. I'm Ashish Ranjan. I'm a director with the KPMG India. I work with the ESG practice, and I lead the sustainable finance vertical within our advisory practice. Happy to interact with all of you and looking forward to a very enriching discussion.
Yeah, hi, good morning everybody. I'm Jangu Dalal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gaviva. We are a digital ESG platform. I'm also going to be a fellow journeyman over the next 3 months as one of your faculty members. So I look forward to interacting with you all today and over the next 90 days. And my particular aim is to learn as much as possible as we go along this journey with you. So look forward and all the best to everybody.
Hi, I'm Richa. I work as an engagement manager with Satva Consulting. So I basically lead a lot of assessment and evaluation studies in the development sector. And my interest area is to understand how me as an evaluator can lean and have cross conversations with the ESG, because the idea eventually is to work towards impact reporting. So that's why I'm coming here to gather more knowledge on the ESG topic. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Narendra Pendarkar. I have an extensive experience in MNC banks, most of it. But my interest has always been with environmental sciences and sustainability. I have done my graduation, post-graduation in those fields and landed up in the commercial field afterwards. But I wish to take forward this journey with these classes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Manmeet. I'm actually a wildlife and a bird photographer, not related to what you all come from, but yeah, I'm also a student of the master's course, and I would be taking up the practitioner course as well. My idea and the thought process towards this is to understand how I could correlate and bring on board the corporates, the institutions, towards safeguarding our wildlife and the birds, because of whatever construction and developments which are happening. Unfortunately, there's a lot of destruction happening on the other side, which is going missing, at least in India for sure. So how can we safeguard that and collectively work towards safeguarding them and giving them a future too?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tasneem Nalwala. I'm the student of Masters of CSR and Sustainability, and I have a 10 years of MNC experience. And I really feel that sustainability is the next word for the next century. That's the reason I'm here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Priyanka Dhingra. I'm an ESG analyst with SBI Mutual Fund. I've been in this field for about 12 plus years, and I'm a master's in environmental studies and sustainable finance for the last 5 years. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Pukhraj Sharma. I work currently as a lead expert consultant in energy practice area for BCG. And for last 9-10 years, I have been doing net zero strategy making for our clients, and at the same time, how we can implement this for oil and gas clients. With this course, I am actually planning to develop more learning and understanding towards the S&G part of the ESG, because E is something that I have been doing. And so basically the standards, the overall evolving market, how the industry itself and how the world is actually changing, so that understanding, and then taking it forward and working with our clients to actually give them the holistic solution for the ESG practice.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tejashree Joshi. I head the environmental and sustainability vertical in Godrej and Boys. And I'm here because I'm part of the first session that you have today on for the day. And I have been in this field of environmental sustainability for around 20 years, having gone through strategizing and implementing all this in my company. So that's what probably brings me here. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Meera Tinguria. I have been a corporate communication consultant for 30 plus years. And for the last 5 years, I've been a trainer on sustainability reporting. I'm GRI certified and integrated reporting certified. I am here actually, I've been a faculty with IICR since a long time, and I'm here to basically support Harsha. I've seen her through a journey since 20. And it's been a phenomenal experience just looking at her as an entrepreneur, as an academician, and her passion for all this. And it's not surprising that she's come bang on with the new topic, which is the latest requirement. Hats off to her.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kedar Bakarkar. I'm a master student for CSR and sustainability. I'm new to this field, and I'm working with microtech developers, also known as LODA developers, for the statutory approvals in environment clearance and consent to establish and operate. I look after those approvals.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful knowing you all. So ESG has gained a prominent, interest, and everybody would love to know the ESG industry very well and implement the solutions in the companies and corporates. I'm a ESG analyst. Right now, I'm doing a freelancing. I was working with Deloitte previously. I'm running a firm called Sustainability 101. So as we all know that ESG is getting a lot of interest and we all want to learn about it. So let's learn from the eminent speaker from the panel. So I'll invite Pradeep to introduce the panelist and agenda.
First of all, it is indeed a privilege to call the specialist, the faculty of this course, and the moderator for this, Mr. Jangu Dalal, please. Now, moderator's job is to control the panelist, and if he is alone, it is of no good use. So it is goes without saying. When I say control, means control the time. Please, the time. Otherwise, the panelists can speak and share their experience being on the vast subject and their vast expertise. So without taking any further time, I request Ms. Priyanka Dhingra, SBI Mutual Fund, to please come. A round of applause, please. Followed by Ms. Tejashri Joshi from Godrej and Bonds, Mr. Ashish Ranjan from KPMG. Recently, we have just seen the global kind of sporting thing, cricket. And when everybody is there, there is no time or role left for the commentator from outside. So I hand over to the moderator, please. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Commentator. And good morning and a warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of my panelists, I hope we start off on a good, enlightening and inspiring and invigorating note. They've all introduced themselves, but as we keep talking through the next 40 minutes, 1 hour, we'll keep that, get to know each other better as well. The way we'll try and run this is, I'll give you a bit of my perspective of ESG, and then we'll go around. I have a few questions to get the whole session going. But any point in time, and with my panelists' permission, anybody has any question, don't wait till the end. We will have a Q&A in the end, but if you have a point of view or a question, even during the session, please feel absolutely free. So the topic of our first panel discussion today is why ESG and why now. For some of you who might have read about me, I'm a hardcore corporate person. I've spent almost 35 years of my life in the corporate world, first as a 9-to-5 professional and then as an entrepreneur. And I bring to the table a very corporate enterprise kind of perspective. And my perspective is that whilst governments and societies at large do whatever they do, unless enterprises and corporates don't step up, we are not going to really move the needle. In fact, as I was coming to this session this morning in my car, and I was going through what's happening at COP27, I'm sure all of you being in the ESG space are reading about it. And there was some, heartening stuff happening there and some not very heartening stuff happening there. But one of the things which caught my attention was most of the world leaders are now talking about bringing in corporates and enterprises to play a more active role as well. And that brings me to the topic from an enterprise and corporate perspective. Why is ESG so important? And what is that inflection point which has caused corporates to become a bit more serious? Fundamentally, corporates are out there to run business and make money for themselves and their various shareholders. And that was the fundamental premise on which businesses ran for a very long time. If you look at it from a global capitalism enterprise perspective, whether we like it or not, the engine which drives all of that is the United States of America. It is the land of capitalism, it is the land of corporations, it is kind of the land where a lot of innovation and thought work has happened in the area of business management. And if you see, corporate America is extremely influential in terms of the way the country moves, that society moves, and by virtue of how American society and that country moves, the rest of the world moves. And there's a very influential body over there called the Business Roundtable. I'm sure some of you might have heard of them. The Business Roundtable actually has the CEOs, chairmen, the chief honchos of something like the 200 odd top companies of USA. So Think of Apple, think of GE, think of Morgan Stanley, Citibank, name it, they're all there. So they are like, I would say, maybe 80-90% of the market capitalization of US, which in itself is 3 times the GDP of the US. So you can see the kind of power and thought work that they bring to this area. And for a very long time, BRT and most of corporate America ran on the doctrine called shareholder primacy. So the fundamental way corporate America ran and rest of the world followed was, and we did that in India and all parts of the world, as long as you ran a clean, nice business and made good returns for the shareholder, that should be the only purpose of your enterprise. So there's this concept of what is the purpose of a corporation or enterprise? Why does that corporate or enterprise exist? So fundamentally for many decades, it was believed, and that's how businesses ran, that your primary focus is deliver good shareholder returns, because these are the people who are investing you and your businesses. But over a period of time, over the last especially 1 decade, and it all culminated in August of 2019, and I would urge all of our students to go and read a bit about the BRT statement which came out, I think, 19th August 2019, if I'm not wrong. They made a fundamental shift and said businesses in America, and then as I said, it's the engine which will drive the rest of the world, will now focus increasingly on multi-stakeholder primacy. And that's a big fundamental shift. I would say that's one of the big inflection points as we see back on the history of ESG as it pertains to corporates, where 90% of corporate America's market cap, and that, as you can imagine, runs into trillions, tens of trillions of dollars, has now said that businesses should not focus only on shareholder returns, but on multi-stakeholder returns. And they have specifically kind of called out what are those stakeholders in that doctrine or document which came out in August of 2019. They talk about stakeholders as their employees, society at large, suppliers, vendors, the planet, and the community. So now, what's happened is, as much as regulators push and pull, unless the corporate world wakes up, and that's happened. And to my mind, that's one of the inflection points which has come about. So I would like to urge you and keep that as a starting point, as an inflection point from an enterprise corporate point of view. So that's my 2 bit on why ESG now and why it's gathering steam. I'm sure my panelists will tell you a lot more. But before I hand over and move forward, I have one very sincere request to all of you who are the students, participants, journey people on this next 90 days. Willy-nilly, because of all the pressures we are facing as a planet and all the challenges around the climate that we are facing, most of the focus when it comes to ESG goes towards E. But remember, you are ESG practitioners, and the S and G is equally important. There are multiple instances where value has been destroyed for lack of governance. Societal issues are more important than ever. Human rights issues, corporate slavery, enterprise slavery has not gone away even in the 21st century. So you as budding practitioners, as you go through this journey, do keep in mind that it's a 33, 33, 33. Whereas whatever you read and whatever people talk inevitably will go more towards it. So with that, my 2 bits, we'll get this rolling. I'll start off with Priyanka. We'll just go in the order that we are in. So Priyanka, as you might have heard her introduce herself, has been a ESG analyst from a financial industry perspective. So my question to her is that you've been in this business for a very long time as a ESG analyst, Priyanka. What is the evolution that you've seen over the last decade from an investor lens? Because that gives you a unique bird's eye perspective to see multiple industries, multiple companies. How's that going about? Has it moved from a checkbox, analytical thing to a more serious practice kind of thing? So your views.
Sure, thank you so much. One of the things that you said in your opening comment about E being the focus of all the ESG discussions, I completely agree with it. And that's also a very, very Western point of view. And for us, even I'm very fortunate to be a part of the SEBI ESG committee. And there also the most important discussion that has been happening is where is the S part of ESG. So I'll focus about that more when I talk about the evolution. So how investors have seen this space developing is that initially somewhere around Satyam and the era of Enrons and every, all the global crashes that were happening, corporate governance emerged to be the one single non-financial metric where investors were not focusing. And they realized that because they were not focusing on corporate governance, suddenly, things are going haywire. Closer home, Satyam opened our eyes to a very, very different kind of financial loss that happened. Post that, I think the investment space as well as the regulators opened their eyes on the governance bit. And if you see today from the reporting perspective, it is a world-renowned fact that India's governance framework, whether you look at the Companies Act or the SEBI LODR or even NSE Prime framework today, it is one of the best and most comprehensive reporting framework. While a flip side is that it has become a checklist. So corporates do sort of look at, okay, 50% independence if my chairperson is independent, not independent. If chairperson is independent, 33% is okay. There has to be one female independent director on the board. It's pretty much a checklist. However, I think this is evolving. And why I say this is evolving is when we talk to the, let's say, top 100 corporates, they have actually taken it very seriously. They are not talking about gender diversity only on the board because they do understand that gender diversity in the workforce is important, and also not to say that you should have X number of women women in the company, but also how to make them feel more comfortable, help them come back after their maternity, or give them flexible working schedules, have a daycare facility in the vicinity so that they feel safe, pick and drop if they are working late. All of those things have empowered women and they want to get back after a break in their career. So I think from the social perspective, employee friendliness perspective, top 200, yes, we find there is a spirit. But there are companies which are still struggling with this aspect. That's also very sectoral. Construction businesses, probably gender diversity you will never be able to see. IT companies, financial companies, you will still be able to help them do it. Again, if you see from an investor's perspective, office force, you will see a lot of women. Collection for loans, you will not see women. So there are inherent business level concerns where women do not participate, where physically challenged employee force is not motivated enough to join. Hotel industry is a great example. We have a couple of in fact we have a couple of restaurant chains which have specially designed programs to help physically challenged people take over some of the work. So all of that side, for employee force, a lot of things have started happening. Governance angle, a lot of things have started happening. The E part has been happening because of regulation. So you have CPCB norms, you have an NGT sitting on your head, you have state pollution control boards looking at you, which is why it is a norm-based compliance that has been happening. It was only post COP, the COP in Paris, where India took such aggressive NDCs that the attention got diverted to decarbonization. And mind you, till that time, we did not have the 2070 net zero target. But that's the place where the focus shifted actually on E. After that, once we had the 2070 target and 2030 targets, which are extremely, extremely, high, 50% of our energy by 2030 coming from non-fossil sources, that puts a lot of pressure on companies to start working on their decarbonization strategy. There's a lot of international investor pressure, which has started helping companies move towards that journey. Still, the progress on E front is there where, you report very well. Everybody is having a 2050 target or 2035 target or a 2040 target. But when we ask them questions, what are your interim targets? What is the roadmap to achieving that target? We get very vague answers. Carbon capture will come in after 2030, so we will do that. There will be some green hydrogen technologies coming in. They'll become economically viable, we'll do that. So we have started focusing more on social aspects. COVID, I think, was that inflection point where 3 issues emerged under the S pillar, which were extremely critical. The first one was migrant labor. We saw a huge amount of migration. It was a country level problem. All the industries which depended on contractual labor faced this issue. If they were not engaging their employees, specifically contractual employees, well, they did not find them returning back in time. That was a big issue. The second was supply chain. The borders were closed. It became such a big issue that your raw material, your supply chain elements, value chain elements were not reaching you in time. If you did not have backup supply chains, if you had not considered supply chain sustainability earlier, you could not even start your operations in time properly. And the third was we all were home. Privacy and data security. This became such a big issue. All your IT systems were now they had to accommodate, your working from home styles, your internet connections, data leakage. Specifically for IT and financial companies, it became such a huge issue. And then the last one, which is the most appropriate, health and safety. When you started resuming back, there were 100 protocols that the companies had to put in place. Many companies were not ready for it. So I think for the S pillar, COVID opened our eyes, also in a sense that something which is so out of your control comes in and shuts off everything. And every investor started looking at it from the climate angle also, that the climate catastrophe could also make the situation somewhat like what COVID did. Maybe migrant labor movement could be equated to climate migration that happens if the sea level rises and there is frequent flooding. Closing of borders, maybe disruption in supply chains. Everything was being equated to climate, and suddenly I think we woke up. So post-COVID, we've seen a lot of regulatory changes coming in, a lot of dedicated efforts coming in from the corporates, from the investors, as well as from the regulators. So I think yes, the COP that we had, the 2070 net zero announcement, and COVID have helped accelerate this trajectory for India.
Thanks, Priyanka. And just a couple of observations on what you said. As much as our regulators and government systems, as common citizens, we bash it up, on the governance and other frameworks, we have actually been leading the way, right? Our LODR, the SEBI's LODR, which is applicable to listed companies, is kind of recognized globally as something which is to be emulated. And I think even on the ESG front, I personally have seen a lot of frameworks, GRI, SASB, which has become VRF, and now it's further metamorphosing to IFRS, etc. The BRSR, which has come out, and I don't know if Priyanka had a role in that, being part of the SEBI panel, is an extremely wonderful, well thought out, well crafted disclosure regulatory framework. I keep joking with some of my corporate clients that with GRR and even BRR, which was the precursor to the BRSR, you could write some nice flowery prose, put some good pictures of inaugurating or planting a tree, and your report's ready. But the BRSR, it's so prescriptive, it's so quantitative driven, it's so target driven. So I think again we are leading the world over there as well. And to the other point which you mentioned, Priyanka, about this whole ESG thing. Now, if you think ESG, you think environment, and you think someone's, and I'm sure all of you know this example as well, someone who's doing great on the EV front, electric vehicles front, because they're solving a huge, huge problem, should be the beacon of the eye of everybody, right? Now, if you think of EVs, you'll think of Tesla, isn't it? Now, there's a global ESG index which is run by a very reputed organization. And a while ago, they actually removed Tesla from the ESG index. It brings us to our point that is not enough. They are doing all they can to decarbonize the world with giving us beautiful, autonomous, all kinds of electric vehicles. But just because Tesla's social and governance policies are not up to the mark, they're not part of that benchmark and index. So again, to reiterate, globally as well, people are saying, please look at this holistically, and you may make the best EVs, but if your social practices are not good. And I would really urge all of you, once again, sorry for sounding repetitive, as people as ESG practitioners in India, we still have lots and lot of challenges on the social side, right? Even to Priyanka's point on the COVID issue. If you see the economy post-COVID, whether we like it or not, it is definitely a K-shaped kind of an economic recovery. The K-shape being that there's one prong of the economy, which is the larger corporates, the well-off people, who are actually doing even better than they were doing pre-COVID. But then there's a large, big part of lower middle class, lower class of India, which is actually the lower prong of the cake. And their standards are actually deteriorating very rapidly. So keep that in mind as practitioners. With that, we'll move to Tejasri. She's got a multi-decadal experience in the environment space. She's a veteran there at Godrej and Boyce. So let's hear her perspective, Tejasri. That over the 2 decades or so that you've been in this space, how have you seen environment, especially from a corporate perspective, evolve? Is it that more and more people within the organization, outside, are becoming more cognizant? Is it becoming a way of life, or is it, what's been the journey over the last 2 decades?
Thank you. Yeah, so I started around 20 years back. So by my qualification, I'm an environmental engineer. So, I'm from the field. And to be very frank, when I entered into this field, I was really not aware what is going to be there for me in store in this. And the 4 years of engineering, actually, I learned what is going to be there in the future. But having said that, when I started actually as a career, really speaking, it was very limited just to manage those mandatory pollution control systems in an organization where it was required under the law, because you need to have a consent to operate. You probably needed to have treatment plans for managing your effluents and waste, and that required somebody from a profession of environment who knows or understands those systems and designs them. So it started from there. I have been fortunate to be in a company where the thought leadership on environment has always been there, and it was never limited to just meeting the compliance, but always a norm that you need to go beyond compliance. And so Mr. Godrej has been kind of leading the whole environmental sustainability in Indian manufacturing spaces. So that was being really fortunate to be in this organization, and I have seen this space move, grow, and also change and adapt to the requirements of the whole scenario which is panning out globally in terms of climate impacts, both at the local and the global level. So when we actually talk about evolving of space, it started with certain voluntary actions in terms of adapting ISO 14000 as environment management systems, and looking at what are those aspects, impacts that your operations are having in the immediate vicinity, and then putting in very structured programs in terms of how do you have a target-based approach or an outcome-based approach to address those impacts. Slowly, I think the whole focus started going more to what are the stakeholders requiring you to do it, rather than what the industry wants to do. And then what I have seen is organizations, although want to do a lot of things, there are a lot of confusions in terms of where do you start. So whether do you start with a reporting mechanism, whether you want to look at now BRSR, do you want to look at GRI or many other standards, and how do I start? Or what is that starting point? So our experience has been, on the space, you shouldn't be starting for reporting. What you should be starting for are those indicators which are material to your organization and its impacts and operations. Look at what are the spaces you are in, what are those major impacts you are going to have, what are the stakeholders you are impacting, what are your larger stakeholder ecosystem wanting you to perform as a responsible corporate, and choose those indicators which are material for you, and then draw up a strategy which is a long term, with obviously a short term and mid term goals in terms of achieving them, and then put in very specific programs for achieving those indicators which you want yourself to be performing on. And along with that, then drive this whole strategy in terms of what do you want to do in this space, and that includes both social as well. Governance part, I won't speak so much because I'm not really from that field. But being in a corporate which has existed for 125 years now, there are inherently implemented governance practices which today we are talking about in boardrooms. But I think fortunately my company has been following them for many, many years and decades. But coming back to the environment, that's how we took an approach in terms of understanding our own requirements that we want the organization to move ahead on. And then having very focused kind of initiatives or focused kind of goals and targets over those indicators that We wanted us as an organization to progress. And this was all not for environment. It was more because I think every organization wants to be predictable, profitable, and sustainable. And when we are talking about sustainable, I'm also talking about sustainability of business. So today in this VUCA world, when we are talking about so many disruptions, COVID being one of them, climate action, and climate, mind you, global warming we talk about at a global scale, the impacts are very local. And that is everyday disruption that you will have to your supply chain, you will have to your entire value chain, to your own operating locations, which you need to consider as a risk management approach. And that's very, very business. It's not for, you're not talking about global good, you're talking for the survival of the organization. And that's what the realization has to be there. And when you are actually evaluating the whole risk mapping or the matrix that you want to work on with respect to a climate lens, it has to be bottoms up. While you know the whole global trends, you need to understand every location specific, business specific, function specific risks that you are running because of not having considered those aspects in your risk planning. And you will realize that, and as an organization you realize that there are so many places that you can take very specific programs. And if this kind of approach is basically adapted, and this is something for organizations who are beginning on this space probably to learn. If you start adapting this kind of approach where it is material for you to take action, your efforts will give you better outcomes in terms of not only demonstrating or de-risking the business, but demonstrating to the world, and the reporting just is a byproduct of it. So the focus report, instead of being a reporting based focus, I would say the focus needs to be what is the organization's intent to be in business. And then it is very easy to connect to the global norms and SDGs and the nationally priority areas, etc. Because you're locally set up in certain space, you need to look at those local aspects and then take actions. And that's where, and I've seen this is what has evolved. I think large corporates are quite aware about this fact. So having done, tried to do everything under the space of sustainability, which is very vast, and really you don't know, you'll go all over the place and then realize that probably you're just spending money and not getting the kind of output that you wanted to. The corporate India, the large corporates have learned this, and focusing their efforts on those areas they want to really have outcomes. And now I think where it is going is basically taking along the whole value supply chain. So the next focus, over the last decade I have seen the focus was more internal in terms of making your own processes better, aligning them to world's best practice. And I would say in corporate India has always looked at how do you make yourself best in the world. So large corporates. And so having done that within your fence, now the focus has shifted to your responsible business sphere or the ecosystem. And that's where comes in your partners. And most of the large corporates have, I think 80% of the partners are MSMEs or small corporates. And this is the ripple effect, or multipliers effect that we call as a large corporates have, where those practices, as you start taking along your supply chain or your value chain along with you, this is going to have that, the next decade we will see that this going to the next level of corporate India in terms of aligning. And that's where the learnings from large corporates come to the MSMEs in terms of where should they focus, rather than trying to just figure out for some years what do they want to do. So that's in just, I've seen how this space has progressed and how we have progressed as an organization. And our focus now again is to look at all our vendors, on the focus areas that we have decided ourselves for the next decade to go ahead. And I would say the key point here is the predictability and sustainability of business. Business otherwise without profits, is no business. So I don't want to emphasize that. But this is the two things which is now driving. And I think environmental sustainability is going to help any corporate today in this scenario that we are seeing have some handle on terms of predictability of their value chain and supply chain as well as their own operations, and therefore remain sustainable both profit-wise, business-wise, and with respect to the environmental impacts it has.
Great, Tejashree. I think this kind of wisdom can only come after 2 decades of experience. And I think with due respect and permission of my panelists, I'll keep flipping my moderator come teacher hat. So what I would like the students to take from Tejashree's members, students to take from Tejasri's talk is this concept of materiality. So as you begin your ESG journey, there are so many parameters which will keep flooding to you, and as a human being with a head and a heart, all of them might appeal to you at some point or the other. But remember, you are part of an organization or corporate or whatever you're doing, some organization, enterprise, and you can make limited impact. So the critical point, as Tejasri mentioned, is to figure what is material for you. For example, for a cement, oil, basic metals company, things which are very important may not be important at all to a SBI kind of an institution, and then the mutual fund organization within that. So I think I thank Tejasri for bringing this concept of materiality out. And the other thing which she rightly mentioned is the supply chain ecosystems, because a large part of what we want to achieve as organizations won't be possible without our entire supply chain and ecosystems coming together. So now let's move to Ashish. Very fortunate to have a ESG practice leader from a global organization like KPMG. So I think let's take advantage of that and ask Ashish that over the last decade that you've been in ESG in India, and also because of the fact that you're part of KPMG, which is a global organization, and always there are learning exchanges and best practice exchanges happening. Where do you juxtapose India and its journey over the last 10 years of ESG vis-a-vis what's happening globally, and where do you think are the opportunities, challenges, etc.?
Thank you, Jangu, for that question. And I think it's important to reflect upon a few key developments here from an Indian context perspective as well. If I go back like 5 years ago from now, none of the Indian companies used to talk about ESG. Everyone talked about corporate sustainability, social responsibility, and the likes. It's only in the last 2 years that companies have really started talking about ESG. And many a times we have felt this, and I'm not sure how my fellow panelists feel about it, that people really don't understand it as well as they should. That difference between ESG and sustainability. But all that aside, what I feel that there has been a really positive development, in this process. ESG converging with sustainability, there has been a really good development in the background. That ESG, which used to be more of a compliance-driven activity, being used by institutional investors to manage their risk, has become more of a business opportunity. It has become more of a value driver, and that's what all the Indian companies are also realizing. And I'm glad Tejasri mentioned about the MSMEs and the smaller companies as well here. The general perception is that ESG and sustainability are things that only large companies do. That's not the case anymore. You will find even family offices, family-run businesses, less than 1,000 crore market capitalization companies getting into this. Everyone is getting into this. Everyone is doing something or the other to ensure that their ESG impact is well managed and they are able to contribute to the larger sustainability of the world. What also has happened is, from being a specialist topic that sustainability professionals used to talk about in an organization, it has become a boardroom agenda. So I remember when we used to work with our clients, say 5-6 years ago, most of the times our interactions would be with heads of sustainability, head of CSR, maybe head of health and safety. In certain cases where supply chain related work was involved, we would talk to the procurement head, to the supply chain head. Most of our discussions right now happen in the boardrooms. Most of our discussions are with C-suite people. And the drive that has come is phenomenal. Like once the MD of a company says that sustainability is important for us, everyone follows. So that's another very, very welcome change, I would say, that has made sustainability and ESG really a strategic initiative. However, all is not rosy yet, right? I mean, there's a lot of road to cover. There's a lot of, very enriching journey that needs to happen. Uh, I talked about the misinterpretation of the word ESG or the term ESG, which is very rampant right now. And people talk about ESG compliance in the same way as someone would talk about, say, compliance to tax norms. It's not the same thing. ESG is a combination of so many different things, right? So many different topics, and just saying ESG compliant is not the right way to address it. ESG is a culmination of so many different topics that you have to focus on. So it's very important to understand ESG in your own context as well as in your stakeholder context. And that is where probably Indian corporates are still lacking a bit. They have to break it down. They have to understand what all is relevant. And the discussion about materiality is really relevant here. And I'm glad Tejashree brought that up. Understanding what is most material to you is not something that gets driven by rating agencies or your peer groups. You have to actually break it down to yourself as a corporate and then understand what is most material for you as an organization and then act on it. I would also talk about the rating agencies part of it, and that's an important discussion to have because we have traditionally been rated very badly, all Indian corporates, barring a few who have been taking a leadership position in their sector or overall even. But most of the Indian companies have been rated very, very badly on almost all ESG rating platforms, agencies, etc. And if you dig a little deeper into it, you will find that the governance pillar is where we have been rated terribly. All Indian companies have been very, very badly rated on the governance pillar. And that's what makes what Jangu said very, very interesting, that we actually have been leading the world in terms of coming up with these governance frameworks which are ahead of the time, which are really, really robust. Then why are we lacking? Why are we lacking in terms of our governance rating? That is because most of the understanding around governance for corporates has been revolving around corporate governance, not around ESG governance. So it's important to understand that governance is not just limited to how many members do you have on the board, are they independent? That's an important part. But you also need governance for climate change management. You need governance for managing your social impact. All of that is where Indian companies really lack. And that's why we have been rated really, really badly. But, it's improving. We have seen that Indian companies have taken decisive steps in that direction. And I think it's about time that in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll find a significant amount of progress. The role that technology and data are also playing is also worth mentioning here. And you would find, compared to, say, 2-3 years ago, many of the Indian companies actually leveraging data and technology to propagate their ESG agenda. And all of you also need to probably focus on the interplay between data, technology, and how it can enable the ESG journeys of corporates going forward. It's going to be a very, very important pillar. And any ESG professional should be aware about what role can technology play in propagating the ESG agenda. So with that, I'll just hand it back to Jangu for his comments.
Thanks, Ashish. So